now return to the hard question on Smart Talk.
Lieutenant Colonel retired Sargis Sangari, who's running for, I think it's the 9th Congressional District out in the Glenview area. It's a big district. Welcome back to the show, Sargis. There is a town hall meeting today, and it is going to be discussing the Kerner Commission and / report that was pretty much established after 1967 in the civil rights period of Martin Luther King this is supposed to be a very important town hall meeting. What I'm trying to determine here, if you're trying to make a decision on what works and what doesn't work after 1967 and now, especially in light of what happened in cases like Laquan McDonald, and now we're looking at George Floyd. What are your thoughts?
Well, Akita, it's good to be here, first of all. Yes, I did see the report that there's going to be a town hall meeting. You know, when we're looking at the 1967 Kerner report, it was actually deeply flawed. It didn't address the root causes of the violence, except in kind of a superficial way of looking at it. And the person who commissioned it and most of the panel were really individuals who had viewpoints that we would consider to be very racist in today's society. And they were...
Explain that a little bit, if you would. Explain that, if you would.
Well, I'm running as a Republican. I don't want to, say that at that time the Democratic Party had a different focus on these issues, but the reality is that they did, and they were interested in ensuring that they had their hands on the pulse of certain communities. In this case, they're looking at the African American community to be able to, win those votes for, as Lyndon B. Johnson said, for the next 100 years. It is unfortunate that was the approach. Look, the report initially states, when you look at it initially and you read through it, that it starts off by stating that it was solely racism that was the responsibility for these type of violence. It didn't address and didn't even really dive deep into the root causes of the poverty and the social, disruptions outside of the racism that fueled the inabilities that we're looking at of many of those minority groups that we're initially dealing with in order to achieve, what we call today is under equal rights and the results. The report ignored the facts that the riots were taking place in the north of the nation. And we're not even taking any of those riots were not taking place in the South, where actually the South had just had more racism and racist issues that it was dealing with than the North. If the cause of the violence was racism in itself, then the riots would follow the lines of racism that was overt at that time in the South, predominantly in the Democratic-owned South. But this fact would have also overturned the commission's bias and cause them to actually have to explore the causes of the violence, something that really the report did not do. So when we're looking at these particular issues and government policies and reports, we have to understand the political basis behind why those reports were initially commissioned. I go back to, again, as we looked at it, where Johnson's administration had said, as he had been quoted, that he wanted to ensure that the black community voted for the Democrats over the next 100 years, and that was a large piece of why the report was initially really conceived and put together.
And since we have such a limited time, I want to talk to you about the issue then of the police, because a lot of the departments of police around the country, some cities like Chicago and others, are talking about defunding. They're obviously not all perfect. Not every policeman is perfect, but some of the areas that would probably suffer the most potentially could be the areas that need the police more than other areas. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out if the funding is the appropriate position, or how do you fix it to be able to bring the police together into the community and understand they're working together.
Blanquita, look, what's happening in our country is everybody's fault. I'll tell you from my experience as an immigrant who came here, didn't know what yes or no meant, worked his way through the entire process, lived in a community that really supported him, that had every color, every ethnicity possible living in that community. I was able to work from a childhood dream of coming here, not knowing how to even speak the language, to a point where I was a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. military, and this nation gave me all its best young men and women and said, take these individuals to war and bring them back alive and safe. And I have an opportunity in 100 plus days to be a U.S. congressman in our Congress. I never looked at myself as a minority. I never looked at myself as somebody who was divided from my nation. I never looked at myself as being something separate. There's billions of people since establishing our nation have tried to come to this country. They have taken every step possible. They've died on the roads. They've come here. Unfortunately, some of them have ended up in child prostitutions and sex slave markets, as you know, from South America. But they have come for the ideals of this nation. So when we start attacking this nation and we're saying that we are separate individuals, that I am this color, I am that color, you're this color, you're that color, what we're doing, we're destroying the nation's ideals. We are actually attacking the peace, the nation that actually everybody's fighting globally to come to. So every issue that we have to deal with, whether it be policing, whether it be the race issues, whether it be equal opportunities, whether it be the so-called economic results that we want to achieve, all this stuff is really in our fault that we have brought it to this point. Our mentality has changed. The same neighborhood that I lived in, which supported me, of the various different ethnical minorities, ethnical fabric that got me to a point where I would be able to be a lieutenant colonel, today is fighting itself. It's separating itself.
Well,
It's
the question I
drawing
had
lines for
even for
itself.
Pastor who came on here prior to you was this. You have also factions that are mixing in with protesters who are out there protesting with righteous indignation for whatever reason, pro or con. But you have violent protesters in there that are willing to hurt people, property, and destroy the fabric of the community. How do you weed them out without appearing, or at least, seemingly to be a racist or a bigot? Because a lot of people feel like the divide right now is worse than it was during the civil rights period in the 60s.
It takes leadership. It took the leadership in the civil rights movement that brought them all the victories that they achieved. It is leadership at the heart of it. It's our approach. Look, let's go back to the roots of this nation. This country, it was brother against brother that fought each other in the Revolutionary War. They killed each other on battlefields. George Washington led our military to victory, but he fought. Majority of the people over here were Englishmen who came and fought against their own country because they didn't want to be labeled as a colonist. They wanted to be part of the entire fabric. They came here to fight for those freedoms that everybody wants to fight for. When George Washington was given the opportunity after the second term to take another term, he said no. He fought against it. Go find me somebody today, a politician that you say, we're going to give you another term, and he's not going to say no for the betterment of the country. Go find me a military leader or anybody in a particular position and a job that says, I'm going to turn down another year in the position. The reason he did that, because he knew what the Constitution meant, and he understood the fabric of this nation, why we fought. We didn't fight for a piece of property or soil here in the Revolutionary War. We fought for an ideal. Today, the American underground needs to understand that hasn't changed. That is still the fabric by which we have to live as we the people in this country. And if we return to our roots based on great quality leadership that can address those issues, we will not have a problem. We cannot divide ourselves, insult this nation that billions of people are dying to come to live. We are blessed people. Unfortunately, the people before us, our founding fathers, knew that. We do not. We do not think ourselves as being blessed. we continuously keep on marginalizing ourselves mentally, which is the reason we are where we are today, divided and fighting each other, marginalizing ourselves instead of supporting our great nation.
You know, the interesting thing is I hear you say all of this about our founding fathers is that they didn't really get along with each other when you look at the signers of the Declaration of Independence, but yet they were together in a principle that they were trying to accomplish in the establishment of this independent republic. And I think part of the concern that many have expressed is that in this particular time of history, we don't allow people of different points of view the liberty to sit down and fight it out among themselves verbally and mentally, as opposed to taking sticks and, abuse and destroying, people's careers, et cetera, by calling them names. It's a thing that's been lost on this diplomacy. Sargis Sangari, we always enjoy having you on the program. Go to what is it? VoteSargis.com. Do I have that right, Sargis?
It's votesangari.com.
VoteSangari.com. SANGARI. VoteSangari.com. Thank you for joining us, Sargis. I'm Blanquita Cullen. This is A Hard Question. We'll be back.